Literacy is essential for a child's development. Reading and being able to read out loud opens up the door for a brighter future. Our Derek James shows us how a new library is making sure that all kids have preschool language and literacy opportunities.
One kalimba. Can you say kalimba? Kalimba. Good job.
It's story time at the Raw Library. RAW stands for reading, arithmetic, and writing.
Can we do 3 beats? 1, 2, 3.
The library inside the Wilder Child Development Center in St. Paul opened in October. It's bringing these preschoolers extra exposure to reading and literacy so they have every chance to be successful.
The library has definitely instilled the love of reading, and then not just that, the love of self. When I see a lot of the books that are African American children, I'm like, wow, this is you, this is me. Koki in the city.
Shamara Butler's 3-year-old son Noah is a regular here. How many books a week do you get? 2? 3, 4, whoa, 10! You just jumped to 10 on me! Minnesota regularly ranks in the bottom of the country for our education gap between white and black and indigenous students. Having early reading programs and access to books can help lead to better outcomes.
We know 0 to 3 are the most critical years for learning, so why aren't we making more of an investment? And if we can do it early, spark that interest in reading and learning, it's a win for someone's entire life.
Having access to a book, it's really an important thing. I think one of the things with me working on this project, I was amazed by the statistics with children who don't own books.
61% of children in low-income households are growing up in homes without books. The Raw Library and the programming around it are working to change that.
When we have read-alouds with authors, a lot of times there's free books that are given out to families just for families to be able to keep. They love being able to have something to themselves, so that's a joy to see.
Finding available and affordable childcare has become a nationwide problem. It's estimated that 51% of parents now live in childcare deserts. That's why the city of Warren in northern Minnesota is getting a lot of attention. John Lauritsen traveled north to show us the unique way the city saved its daycare center and likely its future.
Okay, now I'll do this one.
It's like every morning. Do I get to go to daycare today?
Kelly Pollin's 3-year-old daughter Peyton,
Can you hear it?
is one of 48 kids attending Little Sprouts Learning Center in Warren.
They paint and they dance and they sing and they keep them busy.
But a few years before Peyton was even born, Little Sprouts almost closed its doors for good.
We really didn't know what we would do. We don't have any family who live here. What I have found over my experience with the daycare is that once they close, they're very hard to get back open.
We would have to move. We'd have to relocate entirely.
Lindsay Bugler and her family were in the same boat. The very first day she began serving on the Little Sprouts board, there was talk of closing because costs were high and there weren't enough workers. Afraid of losing families to other towns, Lindsay and others came up with an idea to not only keep their childcare center, but to build a brand new one, twice as big.
We had to go to the drawing board and figure out, okay, how can we financially make this work? What does it take to financially keep a daycare open?
What they came up with was a city sales tax increase, a 0.5% increase for the next 20 years to keep childcare in town.
Usually local sales tax dollars are community centers, ice rinks, pedestrian paths, fire halls.
City Administrator Shannon Mortensen made many 6-hour trips from Warren to St. Paul to try and convince lawmakers that this is what her community needed. In the end, they gave her the green light to let the town's voters decide. So last November, that's what they did. The tax increase passed by just 15 votes.
Oh my gosh, it passed by 15 votes. Like, we won.
We've been fighting for 7 years. We're still open.
The city will break ground on the new $2.6 million daycare center this spring.
You want to help build?
And they hope to have it open by the end of the year. It will be licensed for 110 kids, more than twice as many as the current center. As communities across the country struggle to find daycare, what's happening in Warren could be a blueprint for other cities. It's believed to be the first city in the country to pass something like this. Knowing it almost didn't happen makes supporters want to work even harder to see it through. They view this as a life or death vote for the city.
And that's also your workforce. We're challenged with workforce bodies anyway, and to have them leave would be devastating economically.
That means Kelly and Peyton can stick around for a while. A good thing too, because the next closest daycare is more than 20 miles away.
We don't want to be worrying about our children or waking up every morning, will we have daycare, will we not have daycare? And so it's just really so important for young families, that especially families who don't have family in the area.
In Warren, John Lordson, WCCO 4 News.
Businesses across underserved neighborhoods in Minneapolis and St. Paul have a unique opportunity to go green. It's through the Solar Energy Innovation Network, a federally funded project aimed at helping communities learn about and adopt solar energy. Jeff Wagner took a look at why it could have a generational impact across the Twin Cities.
Vibrancy, from the cultures to the colors, defines much of Lake Street in South Minneapolis, and piercing through some of the powder-coated rooftops along this road is an emerging trend.
Mercado is a bedrock of the community.
About to get a boost of energy.
So they are one of the businesses on Lake Street that is choosing to make this investment.
Matt Kazinka is with the Lake Street Council.
I think a lot of people are familiar with solar as a concept. They've seen it on other roofs. They have neighbors or friends who have maybe looked into it. But to actually get into the details to understand how does it work, who pays for what, and what will the benefits actually be, it can feel intimidating.
That's why his organization, along with several others, are leading the way locally to help 3 neighborhoods harness the power of solar. It's through the Solar Energy Innovation Network, which provides federal funding to guide communities nationwide down this clean energy path. For Minnesota, that includes Lake Street, Broadway Avenue in North Minneapolis, and University Avenue in St. Paul. Not only does that trio showcase our state's diversity, it's weathered destructive anger following the murder of George Floyd.
We're going to be working on this rebuilding process for the next several years.
As new buildings form and older businesses start over, comes a chance to go green with solar.
Our mission is to help entrepreneurs grow and thrive.
Terry Austin works at the Northside Economic Opportunity Network, or NEON.
A lot of times, smaller communities or folks of color are the last to know about new technology. They're somewhat pushed out of some of those spaces as well.
NEON is approaching this project in 2 ways. First, trying to get solar on its roof, then teaching neighboring businesses on how that process works, along with the possible cost savings down the road.
We want to make sure that we have all the information on solar so that we can educate our business clients as well as the community on this great technology.
Here's the Marathon gas station.
Diana McEwen of the Great Plains Institute has helped several organizations navigate this nuanced world.
Understanding the incentives, the tax credit, do they have enough tax equity? And we'll be mapping out, like if you live in this area, you qualify for this and this and this. Really trying to break it down to make it more understandable.
These are really low impact, low energy draw stage lights.
Energy consumption is what helps a performance pop at the Hook and Ladder Theater and Lounge a few steps off Lake Street.
I was only thinking of the lighting, but you said audio is just as important, right?
It is, and in some cases, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it drew more.
Christopher Mozina is the executive director.
Well, as everybody who pays an electric bill knows, the rates have gone up considerably in the last 12 to 36 months with respect to energy costs.
Offsetting those costs are their solar panels installed a few years back.
But my guess is over time that savings will increase in significance parallel to the increasing rates.
Savings aside, Mozina is proud of lowering their carbon footprint.
So this is kind of the brains of the system.
He understands paying for and installing the technology is easier said than done. But with several local stakeholders invested in solar's growth, he hopes his neighbors give it a shot.
And that would be my message to other business and operators or owners of buildings to just investigate it.
The costs are coming down, the benefits are going up, new federal incentives are making it easier and more approachable for people to do.
A big snowstorm can leave a big mess, but it can also bring out the good in people. Stay with us to see how Minnesotans made the most of this year's storms.